Welcome, everybody. Episode 199 of Two Chaps and Many Cultures. And today the other chap is still half a planet away from me on another continent. And it's already a different time of day where he's already beginning to feel some after hours vibes. So what that looks like in the capital of Poland, we'll see in just a little bit. Stay tuned. Welcome, everybody. This is just one of the two chaps, and here's the other one, and he's eating. Did they not tell you not to go live with food in your mouth? I guess we don't need to do this.
It's fine. Witam serdecznie, dziękuję bardzo. Dobry wieczór.
Dobry wieczór. I guess dobry wieczór means good afternoon or good evening, right?
Good evening. Dobry wieczór. It's close to evening. It's 7:30 in the evening, but it's still sunshine. Beautiful weather, probably around about 22 degrees Celsius, whatever that is in Fahrenheit. I'm not doing math live, but here we are in beautiful Warsaw, not far from the old, what is called Stare Miasto, the old town of Warsaw. And it is bordering what also was the Warsaw Ghetto during the Second World War, not far away. I am directly looking at the Copernicus, our good old friend Nicholas Copernicus, who caused all kinds of trouble suggesting that we actually weren't the center of the universe. Yes. And his monument is within eyeshot of me, finished in 1822. And so basically Warsaw is a wonderful city, a very, very vibrant international city. And you can really feel it in the air. But of course, it's got a wonderful history too. So welcome, everybody.
Let's talk. Well, welcome to you and welcome everybody on this transcontinental live program, the #1 show on the business of culture and the culture of business. Wait up. What are you drinking there, Brett? What is that?
It's just a Coca-Cola. We're not getting
All right. Please note, though, for those of you watching this from North America, show us that glass of Coca-Cola again. Is there a hint of ice cube in there anywhere to be seen?
No, there's not.
No.
No, there is not. Not unless I asked for it.
But you know better.
Yes, I do know better. But yes, this is a regular traditional establishment in Poland where no, you do not get ice unless you ask for it. So, yeah.
It's a regular establishment with arugula on your plate, as we can see. So how irregular is the arugula for a Polish dish?
Well, the arugula is probably irregular, but what it is dressing up is not. This is let's just basically call it what it is. It's fat. It's just a big lump of fat with a piece of bread next to it.
Yes,
there's
a
also
heart
some
attack
wonderful
on a plate.
Garlic.
A heart attack on a plate with
yes.
Pickled cucumbers and what else?
And a bit of garlic, a bit of kind of roasted garlic, just to kind of spread and mulch into the wonderful joy that is smalec here in Poland.
Smalec.
And this restaurant, even though I'm in Warsaw, this restaurant is more like the design of a Godal restaurant in the southern parts of Poland. So it does have some traditional dishes from that region, including some just wonderful cheeses and breads that they come from there. So it's great. It's fun.
Smalec, that reminds me of some of the similarities between the Slavic languages and the Germanic languages. There are only few, but smalec in German is Schmalz, which is basically the same root of the word, and it's rendered pork fat. It is beautiful and not healthy, but Like so many things in life, what's delicious may not always be the best for you.
That's
Now,
right. You enjoy
you said there's
life as it
a
is.
a monument for Mr. Copernicus. I wasn't aware that he was from Warsaw. Is he a citizen, or he's a son of Warsaw, or is he simply Polish and the Warsawans said, "Oh yeah, we'll build a monument in his honor"?
Oh well, he's a favourite Polish son. Being the Polish tendency to kind of celebrate the excellence of their scientific world is renowned, and of course, it wouldn't matter. The hotel I'm staying in is called 𝙏𝙬𝙤 𝘾𝙝ℎ, Warsaw 𝙏𝙬𝙤. They celebrate. Yeah. So no, he wasn't born here, but he died. Was born and died in Poland. And of course, he's a celebrated luminary from many moons ago. So yeah.
So when you say that you're not too far away from what used to be the Warsaw Ghetto,
Yeah.
is that when people walk through the capital of Poland, is that something that they're constantly reminded of the
Mm.
horrors of the 20th century and Nazi terror, or is this something that is tucked away in a side street and with gentle notifications for the passersby?
Yeah, it's not a. I mean, it's an active part of the city. The city kind of operates within the boundaries of what used to be the ghetto, and of course the old town of Warsaw, which formed, which has been. Warsaw became the capital of Poland in 16th century, when Sigismund III moved the royal court up to here, and then of course it thrived, and I mean they brought in a lot of architects from Italy and Germany and things like this. I mean, really, it's a great city for this. In that area that you're talking about, you'll witness anything from Gothic styles to Baroque styles to neoclassic styles to, I mean, all the different architecture through the arc of the last 1,000 years are represented here. So in that area there, which was fundamentally destroyed by in the Second World War, firstly from the attack from the opening of the war, but then mainly destroyed during the Warsaw Uprising. The city has kind of grown out of those ashes to become a very, very influential hub in Europe. It's an international centre for business. It houses a lot of European governmental organisations. It is probably here the centre of a lot. There is a building here which is called the Palace of Culture and Science, which is designed based off the terrible memory. Sorry, the New York. What's the famous building in New York?
There's only one in New York.
Yeah,
The Empire State Building, maybe.
Empire State Building. Sorry,
there we go.
that's terrible. It's a late in the day. Empire State Building which was actually a gift from the Russian, from Moscow during the 1950s. So, and it is actually the second tallest building in Warsaw, and is actually the fifth tallest building in Europe itself. So, you see here just a magnificent mix of buildings from the 12th century and the 13th century, all the way through to very, very modern designed skyscraper architecture, which really just kind of represents the many faceted aspects of this great kind of vibrant city.
And as I see people walking by near the street side cafe or restaurant that you're in, it appears that most people do not need to wear a mask. Does that mean that Poland has lifted those restrictions, or is the mindset amongst the uh, capital city residents that, hey, it's not that bad? What's the COVID situation like where you are?
It's okay. It's obviously there are aspects of the Polish approach to it which are better than some other countries, but they have basically come through this financially, at least, with. And I was with a client today that had an intimate knowledge of this as a business leader, and he said that Poland has come through it relatively not undamaged, but of course with less damage than a lot of the other European countries. Something that they actually also did during the financial crisis in 2008, 2009. They didn't actually go into recession. It's a, you know, the Polish mindset is one of very strong resilience and tenacity out of that resilience, and the opportunity to kind of manage through these crises, which for, I guess you might argue that for Poland, this is just a blimp in the road as far as the experiences of crisis and battles that they've fought over the years. So, yeah, I think it's a rather pragmatic approach, but people are being wary, they're being careful indoors, but outdoors, you know, beautiful weather, you enjoy it, and people keep their space. It's not as busy as it normally is, I must say that. There's not as many people on the streets that you might normally find. So, yeah.
Is now Warsaw and Poland are Central Europe, tending towards the east, where we're not talking here Mediterranean lifestyle, but as you can see, there is hospitality on the sidewalk. Is that something that you see throughout the Polish cities, that people spend their spare time as much as possible outside if weather permits?
Even if weather doesn't permit, you'll get especially the squares, like the square here in Warsaw, and especially the famous square, the Rynek Główny in Krakow, is lined with cafes and small restaurants, and it's just a wonderful place to watch the world go by. There is no better way, and of course, as I said, and even the weather during Christmas time when I've been here. The squares are usually packed with people. They're usually packed with the same type of cafes, but you get provided with a blanket to put over your knee and a space heater and probably a nice warm toddy to go along with it.
Right.
A bit of mulled wine to warm the innards, you know.
Now, in the background, as we see pedestrians and the city traffic moving past you, I think it is noticeable that there seem to be more buses on the road than individual car traffic. Is this simply this one particular street, or is this something that you see a lot throughout Warsaw and other bigger cities, that individual traffic has been increasingly restricted by municipal governments in order to favor more communitarian means of transportation, or is this a very Warsaw thing?
No, I think in general, the European style is to kind of have more public transport in general. Here in Warsaw, the public transport, the train system and the bus system is very good. These buses you see go by here are fully electric. They're completely autonomous, fully electric vehicles. Another aspect of this country, it's very innovative when it comes to those kind of technologies. But this street, I think this street, just by its nature, is not really a high traffic street. It's not like the main streets of Warsaw. This is a population of in the city, 1.8 million people. In the wider kind of catchment of Warsaw, probably 3.2 million people. So it's a pretty, it's I think about the 9th populous city in Europe. So it's not a small town by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
Yeah.
But it also does not compete with the Londons and Paris and Berlins of Europe, right?
Oh, no, absolutely not. So you kind of get this benefit. I mean, this is my opinion. I think you get the benefit of this kind of small city feel with the infrastructure of a big city, which looks to always punch above its weight, like Poland has always done as a country. So it's a fascinating city.
You said that walking and working through Warsaw, you're always reminded of it being an international hub. It is the gateway between the big economic brother to the west in Berlin and to the former big brother in the east in Moscow. It's this spot in there between. There's always been trade routes going through it. In today's world, how How international do you feel as you walk through that city? Or let me paraphrase this: if one doesn't speak as much Polish as you do, how hard or how easy is it to get by as a English speaker or German speaker in Warsaw?
You'll get around this place speaking English very easily. There's no doubt about it. It's a common language used here, spoken by especially many of the younger people that have repatriated back to the country. They've kind of gone off to other countries and they've gone to Germany, they've gone to the UK, they've gone to Italy and so on and so forth. So multilingualism is something that's embedded in the culture anyway, but kind of been built on by this diaspora that is now coming back, bringing back some of their skills and their brains. You know, this is a very highly educated population. The population here is, the education system here is rated as one of the best in Europe. So there is now basically a brain redrain, right? The brain kind of power is coming back to Poland, and it's being taken advantage of by the corporations that have decided to set up here and develop. And I think I didn't answer your question before about the markers of the ghetto. There are actually markers on the streets. It's an explicit memorial that is always in your face, but it is present as you walk the streets, and you are reminded, and I was reminded this of my client today, you are reminded that this is a place where, you know, in basically probably a 4-week period, over 100,000 people were slaughtered and buried nearby here, and it's a very sobering experience. And there is a piece of the wall that still exists, which you can walk by and you can see the wall there. But you know, it kind of is an understated memorial to the history, but it is kind of a representation that Poland then goes, well, that is part of our history. It's something bad that happened. We're moving on. We're being resilient. We're being tenacious. Right. But we will always honour that memory as well. So, yeah.
Well, there's another memory that is being honored, and I saw you posting pictures of your trip to Warsaw on social media yesterday, and you were posing in front of like a memorial or a signage that says Solidarność, which was the labor union turned into a liberation movement by Lech Wałęsa. I hope I say his name correctly.
Yeah.
In the 1980s, is that a memory that the Poles are still fondly uphold, or is this something that they've moved past?
No. I think Solidarność is still an active organisation. There are still members, and it is historically seen as a marker in this country, one that hopefully will kind of represent the start of the growth and what has been the growth of Poland. Of course, Pope John Paul II was probably instrumental in inspiring the people to rise and become self-determinant. The church too. Of course, this is a city lazy with churches. There are churches everywhere, all the way from the 12th century. And I think if you spoke to most Poles, they would say that Catholicism and the identity around that has kind of contributed to their survival in many cases, where they've rallied around that hierarchy. And you know, interestingly enough, Poland was really one of those places where the Catholic Church was still able to exist and to some degree under the Russian occupation. But and so, you know, the Solidarność, it was basically a piece of artwork, a huge piece of artwork on the sideboard. So it's obviously fresh in the mind, and it's in an area which is populated by very, very young academics. This is a part of the town that is, and so they go by it every day. They're probably reminded of their parents' experience and their grandparents' experience through that period of time. Yeah.
So Brett, if once you angle your camera a little bit better so we can see your full face, I'm going to ask another question around Solidarność, which most people, I would suspect a lot of people who are watching this in North America, where most of our audience resides. You may not remember Solidarność, a movement that I think originated in the port city of Gdansk and the Baltic Sea, by the harbor laborers, or the ship makers, and everything around it, standing up against the totalitarian regime of an overreaching socialist government that was beginning to forget their labor roots, right? So it was the actual laborers who stood up against a increasingly corrupt socialist government, and that is something that I think most Polish today see as a foundation of their modern societal system, that they overcame the Soviet rule from the groundswell up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, as I said, John Paul. Yeah, people remember the day he came back to Warsaw, visited this country, and basically within a dozen words inspired this country pretty much to rise up, become, live to its identity. There's many books and documents that have been written about that. But that was basically it. 1979 when he first visited, and that was the seed of it, right? It took it took another 10 years, right? It wasn't an overnight success. It took another 10 years for the final overcoming of that. But it's just resulted what I think is an exciting country, exciting city, and one that's got nothing but growth in front of it. From its tenacity, and also its industriousness, right? It's a very industrious people, and and as you say, it's very diverse. This is people are drawn to this city, and drawn to Poland in general because of its education system. A lot of the higher education, medical degrees and things like the actual one thing that was mentioned today I learned was in the medical field, that the big brain drain from Poland is for doctors. Doctors are now Polish doctors are one of the most highly valued resources in lots of parts of the world. Their degrees translate across many borders, and so you find Polish doctors in a lot of different places, and so that's kind of a good thing, you would say, but it's a testament to the medical training here. But it's also a concern because they're all leaving the country. We still want to keep some doctors here, but yeah.
Now, before I let you go back to your delicious dinner there, I'm kind of jealous, to be honest. Is there? I mean, some of our audience might already know this, but there's a big soccer tournament going on throughout Europe right now. And is there any semblance of this throughout the city? Do you feel that there is a Euro Cup spirit, or is hasn't that blossomed yet?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's actually not something that I guess the Polish are known for. Is their kind of outward expression of patriotism. They certainly love football. There's no doubt about that. But you wouldn't see it unless you kind of went to the bar and watched a game. Then you will witness the true passion for the game. But people might do it at home also in current times. No, I don't see a lot of that around at all. But apart from TV, it's on every day on the TV. It's on in the hotels, and there's certainly discussion around it. But there's everybody has their own interest. I was just sitting. Unfortunately, your team. Sorry to bring this up. The Germans were playing the French last night, and I thought, well, I'll go and cheer for the Germans because I got a bait that's a German, and I'll go and do that. And I found myself in a bar full of French. I found myself in a bar full of French people. So I didn't pick my bar real well.
Well, and then there's always this strong historic connection between Poland and France, right? I mean, you mentioned Chopin as probably one of the best known composers of Poland, who had a strong connection to France, and the French may see him as one of theirs as well. So there's always been this French-Polish friendship, I might say. So wouldn't surprise me that you would step into a group of French people watching soccer. Now,
Absolutely.
the last thing I want to ask you before I let you go, if someone were to enter Poland for the first time, and if you were to go to Warsaw on business, what would be the number one thing you would people advise to or advise not to do?
I think the first thing you've got to do, especially because I'm a history buff, I may be biased, but you have to visit Old Town. You have to visit the Old Town of Warsaw. If you also understand that this was 85% destroyed during the war, and they've made a very good, and they've done a very good job of rebuilding it to its traditional design, architecture, and so on and so forth. So the history is kind of still living in even the new buildings that were built from the 1950s. But the historical aspect of the old town is just, as I said, with all that architecture and the different examples of all different styles of European architecture in one place, pretty amazing. So it's a great thing to do, great thing to watch. Yeah. Looks like you disappeared. There, you're back.
No, I dropped out for a second.
You dropped out to go to the Old Town, didn't you? Yes.
Yes, you made it sound very, very attractive. So,
absolutely.
Well, I made the wrong turn. That's what happens if you get lost in the Old Town. I'm telling you.
Yeah, absolutely.
This looks beautiful. So I hope you enjoy
Very
your business trip. And as I said, I posted this on LinkedIn. No, you're not just partying it up. You're actually doing some work there. So at least I believe you when you tell me that. Who knows
I am
if
doing
that's
some work.
true?
Yeah. Don't tell.
Brett, I hope you enjoy your
All
time
right,
in Warsaw. We'll see each other again soon when we do another episode. This is it for now. Live from the streets of Warsaw, Mr. Brett Parry, two chaps, many cultures. We're out for now. We'll see you again soon. Ciao, ciao.
bye.